As with any sport, you can't just run around and do as you please. There needs to be someone to make sure that all the rules are being followed. In Formula 1, there is a group of people just for that, and they are called stewards. Not to be confused with the flight attendant type stewards, these are racing stewards. Okay, so what is a steward? What exactly do they do? And why are they so important for Formula 1 or any racing series at all? These are a few of the questions we're going to go over throughout the video, so stay tuned. The stewards of a Grand Prix are just like the referees of any sport. They are the official staff of the FIA that monitor and control everything that happens in and out of track throughout the race weekend, making calls and taking action whenever something is out of norm. These jobs range from inspecting the cars to weigh-ins, press management, and many, many more. There is a select group of stewards called the race officials that are directly responsible for the race. In this video, we're going to focus on the race officials and their importance. If you guys are interested in a more detailed video about the other stewards, let me know in the comments below. There are 7 different people that make up the race officials, and each of them have a specific role within Formula 1. Let's break them down. First off, 5 of the 7 officials stay inside the control room. From these 5, we have the race director, a permanent starter, and 3 other stewards, one of which is appointed chairman, and the other one must be an experienced former driver. These 5 are appointed by the FIA itself, and all of them, except for the race director and permanent starter, must have an FIA super license, which I talked about in a previous video. Click up here if you want to know more about that. The other 2 officials change for every race, as one of them is the clerk of the course and the other one is a national of the host country. They both also need to have an FIA super license. Next, let's talk about what exactly do they do. Okay, so the race officials get together and sit down in a control room and monitor everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything. They can see you. Let's start with the race director. This guy is the top of the top. He makes the final calls and supervises everything. He is also in charge of deploying the safety car and medical teams when necessary. He can stop the session at any time if he sees fit, like if there is a severe accident or very bad weather. And he has to be able to communicate and know about basically everything that is happening. And as a judge has a jury, the race director has his officials. The permanent starter is in charge of starting every race, as the name says. He's responsible for the starting procedure and all that comes with it, like the pre-race calls, car inspections before the race, and turning on the starting lights, which is the cool part.
And it's lights out, away we go, Verstappen gets it!
Keep in mind we are talking about roles, jobs, not necessarily a certain individual. There can be one person for more than one role, as was the case with Charlie Whiting being race director and permanent starter, but we'll talk about him in a little bit. Up next, we have the 3 stewards that make up the rest of the team. All of these, as I said before, have a super license. This is important, because they have to understand how the drivers think and consider the sporting sides of things, instead of a more follow the rules by the book kind of approach. They can give valuable insight as to why the driver is acting a certain way.
And take that! Oh my goodness!
One of these 3 stewards is the nominated chairman, and another one is always an experienced former driver that works as a consultant for the race director. And this person usually changes from race to race. These 5 people run the show from within the control room. There are 2 more officials, but these are appointed by the national sporting authority of each country. The clerk of the course, who is in charge of knowing every single millimeter of the track, and this is the one that guides the track marshals during sessions, while under the supervision of the race director, of course. There is also a final steward who needs to be a local from the hosting nation. This guy usually gives support to the other stewards. These 2 also need to have a super license. The race director, the clerk of the course, and the chairman of the stewards must be in radio communication at all times. Now, let me give you an example of the race officials in action. Let's take a generic race with 2 generic drivers battling each other for generic place. Let's say these drivers make contact, and boom, they're both out of the race. So, who's to blame? The race officials investigate the accident, and this will appear in the screen like so. They will review the footage, talk to each other, and decide who is to blame and what penalty will be given. It will appear like this. If they realize they don't have enough information to make a decision or want the driver's perspective of the accident, they will postpone their verdict until after the race, appearing on screen like this. When we talk about something as big as Formula 1, you can't just run around and do whatever you feel like. There are rules that need to be followed, and the race officials are the ones that make sure that you follow them. They act as the voice carriers of the FIA, stating and imposing the final decisions of the ruling body of Formula One. The race director is even more crucial for this part, because he's the only permanent race official in every single race. The rest of them can be different people as the Grand Prix come and go. He is the embodiment of the FIA as a person, top of the top, best of the best. And sadly, no longer with us. Charles Whiting, who has been this badass since 1997, passed away on March 14 of this year, just 3 days before the inaugural Grand Prix of the season. He was the race director, permanent starter, safety delegate, and the head of the F1 technical department. Not only he managed everything inside the race, he also managed it outside of races, with Grand Prix logistics and continuous safety improvements made throughout the years, such as the halo, headrest, safety survival cell, front and side impact structures, and high cockpit sides. May the gods of racing have you now, Charlie, as you continue to watch over us from up there. The current race director is Michael Massey, who was the deputy race director working under Charlie. He is doing a good job so far, but he has some big shoes to fill. As the rest of the officials go, we don't really know who they are or who they're going to be, because the FIA won't tell us that. But I am sure that they have the right people in the right places, doing everything they can so that we have an awesome Grand Prix weekend to look out for every time. Formula One goes beyond just the drivers and the cars. There are entire networks in place to support and help them do what they do, race after race. It takes hundreds and hundreds of people to put together a Grand Prix weekend, and it takes a special group of them to keep it all in check. They always work from behind the scenes, rarely under the spotlight, and I hope today we are able to shed some light on their importance in the sport that we love. As always, I hope you learned something new today. If you did and you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more content. Also, check out my website and my newly launched Patreon. If you become a supporter, I'll give you a personal shout out in my future videos along with some other cool stuff. So don't forget to check it out, links in the description. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, these were just Racer Thoughts.